hand, though.
Stop talking. It's the Positively Petland show on 800 KXIC every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. Are you ready to go, Ron?
Yes.
All right. What is going on at Petland this week? You have me all thrown off. Normally I ask, what's the breed of the week, Ron? But we're not talking about a breed.
That's why the show is going to the birds today.
We're talking about a species.
A species and a subset of the species.
Whatever that's called.
I don't
I can't remember. I need to go back to science class in 7th grade to find out. I can't remember. Anyway,
we're going to talk about birds. Is that the right pet for your family? Then we're going to narrow it down. We'll talk about parakeets. And then what we have that's special in the store right now is our canary winged parakeets. What's it like to have a bird? It's one of those that I think most of us would say, I'm not in it. You can't hug a bird. I think you need to lean in to this conversation, and it might be the right pet for your family right now.
Birds are cool.
Yes.
Especially the smarter ones. And
as opposed to the dumber ones. Where are you coming with on that kind of a comment?
I'm just saying that there are some pets out there that aren't that bright, or
birds are
highly intelligent.
Usually, yes, even the least of are pretty smart.
Let's put it this way. I've seen some pets before that you just kind of shake your head looking at them going, how did you make it this far in life, buddy? But
only through humans breeding.
Yeah, right. What?
Oh, I mean, not humans breeding each other. I mean, breeding the dogs.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Breeders.
Gosh, you have to be completely throwing.
I think I did leave that one a little out there. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's the way that it goes on the show. Sometimes we haven't talked about poop yet in the first 2 minutes, so I'm sure we'll get to that. Do birds poop?
Every 20 minutes.
Did you put a timer on this?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So we're talking about the canary winged tipped. What is it called?
Canary winged parakeet.
Canary winged.
So that will be the breed of the week. But we want to just step back a little bit and just talk about birds in general, having them as a pet.
And you have birds at Petland of Iowa City?
Yes, we have had. If you've been around us, you've known that we've had large birds, and we always have had small birds. But you've also noticed, if you've been paying attention to the bird side, we have not had large birds for quite a long time. Well, we can go into why that was, and why now do we have we've got one step up from parakeet as far as size goes, but it's a giant step as far as birds go. It's a really cool bird, the canary winged parakeet.
You had him in last week. We were talking with Officer Neal from the Iowa City Canine Unit, and so we didn't really get a chance to talk about the birds, but just their color and the way that they interact with each other is cool. So do you recommend buying them in pairs, or if you don't, if you've never had a bird before, do you just go with one and then wait till it gets lonely?
No, it depends on, how much interaction do you plan on having? The birds that you'll find in our store at Petland, you tend to not find finches and purebred canaries and things like that, because they tend to be a bird that you put in a cage and you just look at and are pretty. They're tough to handle. Finches, you open that cage and they get out, they're going to be tough to get. Yeah, kind of a thing. But they're obnoxiously pretty, and I get that. I like, and what Petland loves, are those that you get to interact with, tactilely, having them on your hand and kind of having fun with them in that way. So parakeets are ideal as far as an introductory into birds, a little less of a commitment in the bigger picture. Your question, though, answering it, do you get them in pairs or not? How much interaction are you going to have with that bird? And then you can make that decision of, do I get a couple of them?
So if you just want to stick it in the cage, change its bedding, once a week or whatever you do, then
you might want to get two if you're going to want minimal.
But if you're in that cage multiple times during the day, holding it, letting it sit on your shoulder,
or your one is going to be great. They're going to love you for it too.
Well, we will find out about birds as this show goes to the birds right after the amazing pet story of the week.
It's time for the amazing pet story of the week.
This one comes to us from Gloucester, England, I believe.
I thought you said to just go with it. If it's difficult, you just say it.
You do, but
Gloucester.
I think it's Gloucester.
I think you did
Gloucester, maybe? Anyway, a British pet owner used his head literally to save his pet tortoise. Huh. John Fletcher found his 45-year-old tortoise, Frida, at the bottom at the bottom of his garden pond Saturday, limp and not looking good.
Oh, no.
To revive the lifeless tortoise,
oh no,
the Gloucester, I think it's Gloucester, man used CPR, giving his pet mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Fletcher thinks that the tortoise was in the pond for more than an hour. After a few short blows, the tortoise's mouth opened a little bit and water came out. There was movement, and after a sigh of relief from Fletcher, Frida started breathing on her own, and that is the amazing pet story of the week.
Now, on that one, I would need an expert on turtles to know if that really was needed. I'm a little...
Well, that was
it was a great gesture. I'm not saying
that was the first thing I thought is, aren't turtles...
They hold their breath for a long period of time. And I'm not an expert on underwater turtles like that, but I know they can stay down. Just like on the lakes. You know, I love when you're kind of floating on a lake or a river and you see the little head pop up. You're like, oh, there's a turtle. And then it disappears. And it disappears for a long time.
Well, it's a nice gesture. It's a nice good story.
And it is an amazing story.
45 years old. I mean, that's not a young little tortoise. So maybe...
Well, it wouldn't be a tortoise. If it was a tortoise, then yes, this was an amazing story, because a tortoise is a land reptile. Turtles are aquatic. So if it indeed was a tortoise, why did he have that tortoise by the pond?
Is there anything that you liked about this story?
The gesture of the Gloucester man.
A second, just really quick. This is kind of an interesting one also. Stray dogs in India turning blue. Have you seen the picture of this?
No.
Really quick, just a second story. Indulge me just a little bit. Animal rights groups in India blame polluted water in a river for turning stray dogs blue. This is true. I saw it on I think it was BBC the other night. An animal protection cell in Mumbai says that it has filed a complaint with pollution control boards in India. It complained after several stray dogs in an industrial area were caught on camera with their fur dyed bright blue. Groups say that they believe that the blue color comes from dyes pumped into a nearby river by nearby factories. A local pollution control board says that it's illegal for any dyes to be released into the water, and an investigation is underway. But this was a legit story. It was on BBC. Either PBS News or somebody picked it up, and the dogs literally are bright blue from the pollution in the river. So,
well, allegedly from the pollution.
Allegedly, you are correct. I should clarify that. But yeah, stray dogs blue. That would be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, but like in Iowa City, if you saw a blue dog, you would be, you'd be going, no pollution there. Somebody was having fun.
Somebody was having a little bit of fun, or the dog was having fun. You never know. Yeah. Sometimes dogs can break out their finger paints at home while you're away. And
okay, so that the pollution thing, yeah, bad. Never want to see that, have that happen. Period. Not even if a dog gets in it, you don't want to see the pollution like that happen. But it is fun. And the dog has fun with it when you're dyeing hair or you're painting hey, didn't you paint fingernails on your dog?
She loved her
paw nails,
bright red, long Greta Goo fingernails. She loved me when I used to groom her nails, and I used to take a Dremel to file them down rather than I would clip them and then I would shape them and
yeah. How long does it if you used a Dremel, how long did it take to do one nail? Just one.
Well, see, I would clip it, but then I would try to clean it up a little bit just so it was a little bit prettier and nicer, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Dremel worked fairly well. The other sanding discs ones on her nails, it was just too. It wouldn't do the trick, so I had to get it.
You had to have that high rotation-y
yeah,
thing.
and she always liked it.
From the start?
Not from the start, no. But then when she got used to it,
what did you do to get what was her name?
Greta Goo.
I was gonna say do. Greta
GRETTAGOO. Greta Goo Lawler.
Greta Goo. What did you do to help her from I don't like what you're doing?
Talk to her nice. Just seriously, talk to her nice. She just laid down, and then I would be like, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do," and I would gently, cradle her paw.
Yeah.
And she just got used to it. And
what did you do the first time? Did you just like touch it to her paw?
I don't remember.
Like, was it really minimal? And then you said, okay, that's enough. And then come back and do a little bit more.
Probably, yeah. Give her a little bit of a break or do one paw, you know, at a time. I would probably say with the Dremel, it only took maybe, I don't know, maybe less than a minute per nail, something like that.
Oh, so there was some time then.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like clipping, but we had clippers. I always got scared about going too far into the quick because I did it once, and that's why you should probably go to Petland and have them
do the $5 nail trim. Yeah.
But that's first time that I got into the quick, I mean, that's like you're hurting your baby or something like that. You don't like.
Oh yes,
you don't
scary.
like doing it. And she didn't like it obviously because there was blood all over the place. But that's the upkeep on a dog.
Okay, so but I have to, being the host of the show right now, I have to go back to you talked nice. So what are some of the phrases that you would use to talk nice?
Little baby Greta Goo. Greta Goo, yes, you're such a good little girl. We're going to do your nails now. Do you want blue or do you want red?
Oh, that is cute. I love it.
She was my baby, man. I loved that dog more than anything in the world.
So from drowning turtles
to blue
tortoises
to blue dogs to little baby Greta.
Talking nice to your dog. So yes, you can do $5 nail trims at Petland, Iowa City. No appointments necessary. Just bring in your vaccination schedule so we have it on record. And that is all it takes to avoid this unpleasant situation.
We covered a lot of topics right there, but we're going to continue the conversation about birds.
Going to the birds. So let's let the show go to the birds.
All right.
When people, you've had a bird? You had a roommate that had a bird? How did that go?
My parents have had birds for years.
Okay, so you kind of like came into it.
Secondhand, I haven't had a ton of interaction.
Okay. A lot of people here, we had a bird at home for a while, and in our house, my wife actually had a phobia to feathers. Her oldest brother taunted her with an Indian headdress, like they were playing hide and seek or whatever and running around the house. And he then, when she was, I guess, too young, started like running around with the headdress on, acting like an Indian or something, you know, I don't know. And so she had a fear for feathers.
Wow.
So whether it was attached or not attached, she didn't like it. The first day we walked into owning Petland of Iowa City, Wendy walked right up to where the birds were, touched one of the birds, and she said, step one to overcoming that phobia. I don't remember if it was a full year, but 6 months to a year, we had a bird in our house and she was all on board. So you could go from, you know, I don't want to ever be around it, I'm freaked out by just the feathers alone, to actually adoring and just loving.
Or even the sound of them talking. That can drive somebody crazy.
Okay. Or the opposite. Actually, I was thinking you were going in a different direction. I loved the chirping of the bird in the house.
I liked it also because there's something.
It was like nature was in my house.
Yes, exactly.
And I loved that.
But if you're not used to it and you don't know if you're going to like that high-pitched sound, that's what I'm saying.
That's why you start with a parakeet.
That could probably drive somebody bonkers. But we're going to continue the conversation.
We got to take a break.
We got to take a break. Positively Petland show every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. We'll continue the conversation as the show literally 100% goes to the birds on 800 KXIC. Oh, what? Oh, what?
I'm going. We're live. All that's on in.
You absolutely darn.
I love it.
Why take good stuff out? That is live right there. Oh, come on, Jared. We are back. It's the Positively Petland show on 800 KXIC. We're talking about birds this week, and the canary-winged parakeets, right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Canary tipped.
Nope.
Canary-winged.
Canary-winged.
And what's the difference between, say, a regular parakeet and a canary-winged parakeet?
Only that they are both in the bird and parrot family.
Oh, okay.
There is actually no crossbreeding between those two. I don't have anything on the origins of that. The canary wing, of the name itself. I don't.
Gotcha.
I haven't found anything on that one.
But parakeets are cool.
Yeah, not to disown the parakeets. So we wanted to talk just about what is it like having a bird, and is it answering the question, is it the right pet for your family? And so what attracts people to birds is the interaction side of things. Well, I guess the beauty first. It's kind of like humans to humans, you look hot, kind of a thing. And then you go, oh, what's it like to have one of these things? In our store, we see that happening every minute, every hour, every day. It's people that are coming in for the puppies, kind of a thing. We're all about having fun and playing and all that. And then they can't help but stop at the parakeets, and now at our canary wing parakeets that we have as well.
Because you have an open, is it still an open table?
Yep, it's all open, and for the birds, you'd call it an open aviary, and it's something that you can interact with them and socialize with them and all that. And the canary wing parakeets are very social. That one has a crowd around it all the time because you can just scoop right in there, put your finger up to them, and they step right up and say, "Hey, how you doing?" So it's fun. So first, they are beautiful. Another thing that people like is the sound of birds. I really enjoy the sound of birds in my house. It's beautiful. It's just like waking up with your windows open in the summer and saying that's really beautiful. One caveat though, birds outside see the sun and the sunrise quicker than what a bird would in the house. Good news. They wake up later as a result. So when you hear that first bird chirping, you're like, I'm not ready for this morning. Typically, I've found in our house that Plimpton would wake up far.
Backtrack. What is it?
Plimpton Grace was his or her name. We weren't quite sure. That's why it's Plimpton. Sounds kind of masculine. Grace was feminine.
Plimpton. That's
Plimpton Grace.
Fascinating first name.
It ends up being the last name of an actor, Plimpton.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's one of those things you come up with the name and then go, where did we come up with it? And randomly it was the last name of some semi-famous actor, but I don't remember much about that. Anyways, so Plimpton wouldn't wake up until after we were up, and so then he would start doing his talking around and having fun and all that kind of stuff. Parakeets, just the small parakeets, that's where, if you've never had a bird, that's definitely where you want to start. You'd have the chirping and all that kind of stuff. Let's say Ron, I'm sorry, I wake up at like 11. So what do I do then? That's where you would put a blanket over their cage and then take the blanket off at 11, and now would wake up with you and all that kind of stuff, be on your schedule and everything. So the sights, sounds, and then what I think most people don't anticipate is the interaction. Did you have interaction with the birds that were in your house?
Again, it was my parents' house, and the bird that they have now, I think they've had probably for about a dozen years or so. And they let it just fly around the house. So it will fly over and land. If Dad's working at his desk or whatever, it will just come over and literally land on his shoulder.
Do you know what kind of bird it is?
Parakeet.
Oh, okay. So very cool. So that's another decision then you make along the way is do you want your bird to have free flight within the house? Well, at all, I guess.
And it will go up and sit on the curtains or... hop around, or if it gets rattled or whatever, it will just fly back and stand on top of its cage. But yeah, they've always allowed him to be able to fly around.
And I think for most people at the beginning, they would do a wing clipping, which is very much similar to you trimming your nails. Does it hurt to trim your nails? No. Same thing with a bird. You don't cut the whole, feather off. You do it actually about halfway out, and there's a rule of thumb that wing trims are done at, and that then reduces the significantly reduces the ability for that bird to fly. So they can glide down after that. For most people, that's probably the place to start. Plimpton never quite got that flying thing in the house because we did it a couple of times, and he walls and windows and furniture and chandeliers were all just obstacles that always got in the way. And so we said, hey, for Plimpton's safety, he was about 3 times bigger than a parakeet.
Okay.
And so still
that's a decent, yeah. I mean, that's
body wise, yeah, we're about 6 inches from not the tip of the tail.
Right.
The tail then made it a lot longer.
Sure.
But yeah, for the body size, yeah, it was a nice substantial bird. He just didn't get the idea of what he was supposed to do when he was flying. And so we said for Plimpton's safety, by the way, he was a black-headed caique. If somebody was like, well, what is Plimpton? Black-headed caique, Caique. And he was a wonderful bird as well. Very high personality of a caique. And so we did the wing trims in our case, and that was the best. We're going to kind of randomly go through, what's it like to have a bird. In your case, when you let them have free flight, you are adding on a little bit of maintenance, because what did I say I think at the beginning of the show?
Yeah,
they poop every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're going to have poop around you. It's not a very dirty poop, so it's easy to wipe up.
They have all wood floors so
not a big deal.
Or linoleum or tile in the kitchen, excuse me. And so that's just something that they've kind of said, well, we're kind of used to it.
Yeah, we're okay with it. And a parakeet is so small, the damage is going to be very, very minimal.
Right. One of my favorite stories about the bird is I was over visiting Mom, I think 2 weekends ago, maybe last weekend, I can't remember. And we were sitting at the kitchen table just having a talk on a Saturday afternoon, and all of a sudden the bird kind of starts chirping and rattling around in its cage. And Mom goes, "Oh, Dad's home." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Oh, the bird always lets me know when Dad's home." And sure enough, he pulled the car into the driveway, and the bird saw him out the front window of their house and started chirping, letting Mom know. And 30 seconds later comes Dad walking up the stairs.
Kind of like a dog does.
I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, boy, they have their own system down. And, the bird knew, oh, yeah, Dad's home.
Yeah. And there's some other strangers. They're a little leery of strangers, usually. Unless you are, and just like a dog, unless you're holding the bird, they're a little leery of strangers. But then if you're holding the bird, then they'll go, oh, if you trust this person, usually I'll trust this person, kind of thing. So, all right. So, if you have not had a bird, go the parakeet route. If you have not had a bird, go the wing clipped route. Now let's get into the maintenance. We talked a little bit about the interaction. If you have any other interaction stories, those are always the best to know what is it like. So, maintenance of a bird is very minimal. So are you looking for a pet that your child will bond with, that you're going to love, that is, provided that you just have a passion against birds, don't go there. But and the commitment of a parakeet is in that, 7 to 10 year window. And yeah, some of them are less and some of them are more, kind of a thing. And but it's a lesser of a commitment. For instance, if you were like, well, I love Beretta's Moluccan that he had, a cockatoo. He had a sulfur crested cockatoo. That bird will live, I think those are into the 70s and 80s. A macaw, which is that big bird, big beak, beautiful. The hyacinth is like a really beautiful blue. Those things are now going over 100 years.
Really?
Big time commitment on those. So parakeets are much less. You're in that 7 to 10 years. You'll have them in a cage. We always say the bigger the cage, the better. Why? Because they will spend a lot of time in that cage. So you want to give them room to move and fly around and all that kind of stuff. But then your maintenance, oh my goodness, like once a week, go in there and change out the tray, maybe take the grate out and soak it, and then get it all cleaned up, and then you put it back together. It's pretty minimal as far as all animals. Like, it's easier than a hamster even. So Not as easy as a beta, though. If you're like going, sounds too much for me, Ron, go back to a beta, and I think you'll be better off there then.
Really quick, why are betas so difficult?
No, easy.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
I misrepresented.
No, yeah. Okay.
Betas are easy.
Okay.
Bowl, water change once a week. You're done.
I got you.
Feed it.
That's why I asked. I was like, wait a second. All the betas that I've ever had or fish that I've ever had are relatively easy.
Yeah. So the bird would be a next step, but the interaction you're going to have with this bird is so much more than even a hamster or guinea pig or rabbit, because they just get that love thing and they want to be around you. And so they nestle up to you. When you first get a parakeet, or any bird or pretty much every pet, if it's a little squeamish, give it a couple of weeks. Don't force the interaction at the beginning. Let it figure out its environment. You know, if you look at it from their perspective, they can't speak your language. They don't know what's going on. My whole environment just changed. What's going on? Their primary question in their brain probably is, are you going to eat me? And so I'm going to stay away from you, or I'm a little leery of you. And
it was the way that you said that. Are you going to eat me?
Yeah. And so I don't trust you. But after a while, then they go, oh, well, your motive must not be eating. So what is your motive? And so then they understand over time that it's love, kind of thing, and that you want to have a companion. So that's another important aspect. Leave them be for a period of time so that they get acclimated. When we brought Plimpton home, at the beginning, prior to home, we had him, and he used our hands like a jungle gym. And it was just fascinating to play with him. When we got him home, totally different bird all of a sudden. He was nervous. Are you going to eat me? Kind of a thing. And it did take him a full 2 weeks to buddy up, and we would just test the environment. We put our hands in there and we try to scoop him up with our finger, and for 2 weeks he'd back off and go to a corner, and we're like, oh, okay, you're not ready, that's fine. And then in about 2 weeks, put my hand in there and he just jumped right on. He was ready. And so now we did that. So same thing with a parakeet. And if you then have, let's say you have a parakeet right now and go, Ron, that just hasn't happened yet. That bird has not hopped up yet, kind of thing. So what you can do there is, the first part's a little bit on the aggressive side, catch the bird. So if you want a demonstration of that, you can come into the store. And if you hold the bird
with your hands, not like a catcher's mitt or anything like baseball.
No. Hopefully he's not flying around where you need to do something like that. No, it's just catch the bird with your hand and then hold on to him. And there is a little special hold that you can do that doesn't allow him to bite you or anything like that. And in about 10 minutes, most birds are going to buddy up and say, oh, you're not going to eat me, so what is this all about? And then they'll start perching. That's where the relationship starts, kind of a thing. And then you work with them. There's other ways of doing this that are longer term, a little nicer, kind of a thing. But most people, you're on your first bird, you're not going to catch on to how to do it and everything. So this is the nice, quick, get them going in the right direction. And now they're perching on your finger, and now you can start interacting with them. So that's the first step of getting your bird going in the right direction. And now it's just interact with them. And what you're going to find is, how you can train a dog. So if they do something, give them a treat right away, and then they're going to go, oh, with what? Frequency and consistency. They're going to go, oh, I want another treat. So if I do that again, then they're going to start learning it. You could do the same thing with a bird. So getting them to come up on your finger, you can literally have a treat in one hand, your finger out horizontal in another. Go in there with your finger, and if the bird is perched on one of their perches in there, just put your finger parallel and close to it, but then put a treat so that they have to walk on your finger in order to get to it. And now you're going to train them to come on your finger. And that's most bird people, if you're into birds, they call that step up. And so you do that and you go step up, and then the bird will step up onto eventually with frequency and consistency, will eventually just step up onto your finger. And now you're outside the cage and working with them and all that kind of stuff.
And like any pet, it does take that frequency and consistency in order to get the result that you want. But if you take the time from the beginning and you constantly work with it and, let it do its time, that's my experience, at least with some of the birds that I've had. seen my parents' interaction with them.
Right. Yeah.
Is, boy, they just, I mean, they are pals. And that bird absolutely loves my dad.
How can you tell? Give us some of the physical characteristics that say
first of all, the chirping. And then when he came home, the bird's looking out the window, and I just peered around the corner out into the living room where his cage is, and he had turned around, and now he knew the door that Dad was going to come in. So then he turned around and he started looking at him, and you could just see
he's
that
wiggling.
His head was, chirping, or his head was wiggling around. Yeah. And he was just chirping a little bit more. And then Dad went right over, lifted up the cage, put him onto his finger, and then set him on his shoulder, and went and we continued the conversation.
Before he even went over to Mom?
Before he even went over to Mom. They've been married for 50. They've been married for 51 years, so there's still love there, I'm sure, but probably not every single time that he comes walking in the door.
Yeah, so you know who's important in that family. I love that. So those are some things. Then I as a parent, I love that introduction or that welcome home hug and jump. Andrew would literally back up and go, "Are you ready?" And I'm going, "You don't even have to ask." And he would run, leap through the air, and I would catch him. And
like last week?
No. Now he's 20. He's a little heavy to catch right now.
I just imagine, because I met him down at the block party in June. I'm just imagining this 20-year-old kid going, "Are you ready, Dad?"
Yeah, that would be a whole nother ready. No, when he was like, that young, all the way up to what, about 10-ish, kind of thing, and then just would give you that beautiful hug. Well, here you get that from these pets. Obviously, we all know that the doggies do that, and we love that when they greet you at the door. Parakeets and birds will do the same thing. They want to greet you, and so they want to, "Hey, come on over." If they're free flighting around the house, then they're going to come and greet you.
Really quick before I forget, it's not. It doesn't matter what your quote unquote pet is. And I'm not sure if you've seen it or not. I posted it on our Facebook page, that which you can find it. Just do a simple search on Facebook for KXIC, and the picture should be there. Is the teenager down at the Iowa State Fair that was sleeping with his show steer? Did you see the picture?
No.
It literally went worldwide. So this was last Wednesday or Thursday, and there's a FFA show person, a kid that's in Future Farmers of America, and he was showing his steer, and he had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to prep this whole entire thing. Well, they fell asleep in the stall. The kid is sleeping on the belly of this steer. He's sleeping, and the cow's head is over, basically wrapped around the boy and sitting and he has him cradle. It is a fabulous picture. And once again, go to the KXIC Facebook page. I can't believe you haven't seen it. It's worldwide viral.
Wow. That does sound cute. I gotta check that out.
So when you have that type of interaction, and you gotta think, in order to show a steer or a dairy cow or anything down at the Iowa State Fair, even a pig, it takes hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours of prep, and then show training in order to show that whatever the animal is down at but anyway, Iowa State Fair is on my mind.
Yes. And so that's a wonderful story. And the same thing happens with the bird as far as it's snuggling up to you and all that kind of a thing. So birds are a very loving, wonderful thing. As far as, okay, so is there anything more on the maintenance side of things? So your cage, I always say, get the biggest cage that you can afford or accommodate within your house. Bigger the better. There is, when you're going for cage size, just pay attention to the size of your bird and the width of the opening in the cage rungs, so that you get the appropriate size. You don't want to get one that's too wide. One, they could get out possibly. Two, they might not get all the way out and hurt themselves. And so that's the getting the right size cage is important.
Silly question: do birds get any type of regular maintenance as far as vaccinations or shots or anything like that?
No, they go the route of some other pets in that. Okay, so can you? Yes, there are some things that you can do for your bird. We have very few avian veterinarians in the area. There are a couple. Quad Cities has some regular avian can't get the word out, veterinarians, bird veterinarians, and then Chicago has a whole flock of them over there. You can
bada boom, bada bing. Nice pun.
And why is that? Bird customers tend to not spend too much money on their birds, and so that market hasn't really developed as a result.
But unlike rabies, where you're required by the city to license your dog and everything like that, there's nothing harmful that a bird would have towards its owner that it would need.
No, not customarily. That's a good veterinarian and avian veterinarian question, specifically. Things that we hear in the media, like the bird flu and all that, these are captive bred birds. So they're in isolation from that kind of a thing. And if a bird breeder has an issue like that, it's a pretty catastrophic thing. They lose their flock, kind of a thing. So it's one of those things that it kind of takes care of itself if it does happen. I do not know of anybody that has caught anything from a bird from that way. But a veterinarian can speak more on that.
So the canary winged parakeets that you had in last week, one of my favorite things is sticking my knuckles in between the wire cages, and they'll come up and just kind of nibble on it.
Yeah.
But some of the bigger ones, they could they could bite down pretty hard.
Right. And so, okay, so why do you not want to go to a large bird? And why did we have macaws in the past? But wait, I don't see macaws in your store anymore, Ron. And it's because it requires an advanced owner to take on a larger bird. Anything bigger than a caique or a conure, maybe a little bit bigger. So there are some small cockatoos out there getting to that, but anything bigger, they can cause damage fairly easily and quickly. And if you don't know how to handle that, then you become afraid of the bird. Well, if you're afraid of your bird, are you going to pick that bird up? No, you're gonna put gloves on, at that point.
I'm thinking my parents might be a cockatoo now. I know that they had a parakeet for a long time.
How big is it?
Like that.
That goffin.
See, I don't know.
But is a small cockatoo.
They've had so many just different birds that sometimes they would have 2 or 3 in different cages. And
what color?
Blue and white.
Okay, so it's not a goffin. A goffin is a white. It's a little shade of white.
Yeah, no, this is a white breast and then blue and black wings.
Yeah, and well, a parakeet, how big it is. Is it same size as a
roughly,
parakeet?
Yeah, but as soon as you said cockatoo, then I was like, well, maybe that is it. But anyway, it doesn't
Cockatoos are bigger. So these bigger birds, especially the macaws, those are the biggest of the domesticated birds, those guys can do damage to you and to your house fairly quickly. And if you don't know how to handle that, that's
they've never had any damage or anything like that. Although, can I tell another fun story?
Yes, yes, please.
The bird got out.
Oh, out of the house.
Out of the house.
Ooh, scariness.
Yeah, and it was a spring day where I don't know if mom was grilling or something like that, but the back door was open, and either she forgot that the bird was out or she thought that it would be quick enough. Anyway, they lost the bird for 3 days.
Whoa.
And
it came back. This is going to be rare.
It did not come back.
Uh-oh.
It did not come back. It was found by a neighbor who knew them up on North 7th Avenue, about 7 doors away or so, and it was sitting on their back deck. And they put a note out on the telephone pole going, "Hey, we found this bird," and they put a picture up. Dad was walking to work and he saw it posted, and he goes, "You got to be kidding me!" And it was gone. I want to say 3-4 days, and so it flew over there. The other owners knew what to do, brought it in, and either gave it food or they figured something out where it went. But anyway, it was gone for a while.
Yeah, that's rare to ever get them back like that.
They were absolutely devastated. It's like losing a dog, or losing, I don't want to compare it, losing a child, but when you do have that bond with them for so long and you realize the chances of you getting it back basically are 0, and then they got it back, it's pretty incredible.
Right. And that's another consequence of letting them have flight. And I know some people will go, well, that's not right, not letting them have flight. I'm with you on that. I understand. but there are some consequences. And so just take precautions. So there are harnesses that you can put on a bird. So if you do want to go outside with them, you can put a harness on them and then have a little leash.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, not at all. And these are bird owners love these things.
Holy moly.
Don't get lulled into my bird won't fly away. Just talk with about, I don't know, a third of bird owners will go, oh yeah, I believed in that too. And then they'll walk through and then all of a sudden it'll fly away.
Unreal.
And they'll go, oh shoot.
Well, nice knowing you.
So having a harness, that's another way to interact with your bird outside. But yeah, that's a horrifying experience, and normally you don't get them back. But this is the time when people will go, I found a parakeet outside. Somebody had flight, opened the door, and it got out, kind of a thing. In San Francisco, there is a flock of sun-breasted
flock of seagulls. Oh wait, that's a classic rock
they're
band.
Out there too, but there's a flock of I can't get the name of the breed out, but there's sun-breasted is the type, but they're beautiful birds, and these are smaller birds. But if you go out to the ocean and the cliffs, you'll see the flocks of them out there, and it obviously started with somebody going, "Whoops! It got away," and it just appears as if they are. That's a native climate for them, and so they're procreating and multiplying and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways,
just about 5 minutes to go. Just letting you know where we're at.
So we've talked a lot about, you either have sparked an interest at this point or you have not. So a parakeet is a good place to start. Another one, if you're real committed, that you can start off with is this canary wing parakeet that we have. We have 6 of them left in our store. These are now bigger than a parakeet. They're going to be more interactive than a parakeet. And I love them because once they attach to your finger with their little talons and stuff, not hurting, they're really skinny things. They'll go upside down and all sorts of stuff. It's just almost like you can't get them off, and all that kind of a thing. So they're really a fun bird to interact with and everything. A little bit about the history of them. Here we go. Canary wing parakeets originate from the Amazon River Basin in South America. And so what happened is I think it was in the early 90s, a law was passed that you cannot import birds anymore. They realized that we were draining the Australia and South America of all their birds, and that was not right, which is a great thing. Well, when they cut the border, it was kind of abrupt, apparently, for bird breeders, and there were no real bird breeders for the canary wing parakeet, even though this was one of the most popular back then. So we haven't had them for a while. The flock now, so obviously there was some in the United States. Now the breeders are multiplying, and they're getting bigger flocks and all that kind of stuff. So now they're available again. So this little guy is a wonderful purebred from South America that has just a beautiful look to them, very spunky in their behavior. They're very interactive and loving in that way. And just about twice the size of a parakeet. So a little more commitment than bigger. Bigger the bird, the more the commitment. Bigger cage now, a little bit more food. You're going to change your food out for your bird about every day. Throw out the old, put in new. You're going to change out the water a minimum of once a day, usually a couple times a day, because they like to put things in the water, and so it gets janky fairly quickly. So you want to have them fresh, and you usually have multiple water dishes in there, because a nice thing to do every morning, you wake up, have a spray bottle handy, and you spritz the bird. Do your parents spritz your bird?
They do.
So that's the morning bath. So it's something like the bird in the wild.
And the bird loves it.
Yes. When they get used to it, probably the first time, you don't aim it at their head. The first time you do it, they're like, what the heck are you doing? Kind of thing. But then they start realizing, oh, this is my bath. I get it. Well, they'll start, does their bird open their wings?
Absolutely.
Yeah. They'll start opening their wings. And so spray my wings, and all that kind of stuff. You're doing some benefit there. So you're giving them something they want. 2, you're giving them a bath. So the dander and things that occur on a bird then get rinsed away over time. I would not say a bird smells too much unless you let the cage get away from you and you don't maintain it. Okay, there is an odor that occurs. But if you're doing a a tray change and all that once a week, we never really noticed a smell. Now, when Emily, who was responsible for the bird, didn't do it for a couple of weeks, we went, Emily, we can tell, get in there, do some maintenance on that boy. So minimal maintenance on that, but the bath is just fun when you're doing it. It's like if you have a kid over and you're looking to give them a task to do, go spray the bird. What kid doesn't like to do a squirt gun, kind of a thing. So let's see if there's anything else. Enrichment is a key part of any bird. So you don't want to just get a cage with a couple of bowls in it. You want to make it look like a jungle in there. So everything from hanging toys to multiple perches, different kinds of perches. You're going to learn how to strategically put things in your cage so that when it does poop, it goes straight to the bottom. It doesn't fall on top of a toy or something like that. You'll learn all those as you go along. Play gyms and play tops on top of the cage are always fun. So different enrichment tools for the bird are definitely necessary. You are going to be the biggest enrichment for that bird because you're going to take it out and have fun. The diet for birds, you're going to have, usually people go, oh yeah, I want a seed diet. Realize, just look out your front window. What are the birds eating? Are they going to the trees? Yeah. Are they eating some of the nuts and berries and stuff? Yeah. But what are they doing in the grass? They're pulling different grubs and things out of the ground. Now, you don't have to feed them live grubs and all that kind of stuff. We have live people. Once you give them to them once and see what they do, you're like, oh, okay, he likes it. We got to go get some more. But we also have dried versions of those in bags. But then their primary staple diet is a pelleted pellet, and it has all the nutritional needs that bird needs all in one little nugget, so that it's kind of it's like feeding dog kibble. It's got everything they need in it. If you just do a seed diet, you're going to lose some of the nutritional needs of that bird. So it's important to have a pelleted diet, and it's best to switch to a totally pelleted diet for your bird.
Are all birds nice?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, I was going to say my favorite, one final story from me is I get out to the studio here at 800 KXIC on the north side of Iowa City on Dubuque Street. And so I get out here about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and there was a crow that was sitting on one of the guy wires coming down from the antenna. And, it's absolutely quiet out here, and he let a crow go. And if there was a ceiling tile above me, I would have hit it. Last week, oh my Lord, my grandma used to call them devil birds because they're just black and they're
movies too.
Yeah, they are just nasty little birds. And he went just loud, and I jumped. I'll admit, yeah, but
it was probably an inspiration for Alfred Hitchcock on that one.
He was laughing at me. I know that he was, but
parakeets are generally a very nice bird. That's why parakeets would make a good pet, and obviously these canary wing parakeets will also make a great pet.
How do we find out about you?
We are Petland of Iowa City, located at the Marketplace Mall. We're across the street from Market. What is that called?
Lucky's Market.
Lucky's Market. I couldn't remember that. Lucky's Market.
You've been there for almost 12 years.
Yes. And so just if you haven't been there, you got to check that grocery store out. It is quite neat on what they do there. But we have pets all over the place in our store that you get to interact with. And the question is always, is this the right pet for you? So that you can interact with them, learn about them. Is a puppy the right thing? Is a kitten the right thing? Is a hamster, a bunny, a guinea pig, a fish, a reptile? We got all these different interactions, and we love to get them in your hands. So that's what you're going to find when you come in. Plus, we have all the supplies that goes along with them. And so check out all of the very unique supplies that we have in our store. Wendy and I and Coy go to trade shows multiple times a year just to pick out what's the latest and greatest that really does work for you. We do the $5 nail trim. No appointments necessary. You cannot beat a $5 nail trim. And then we have the buy 10, get the 11 free on all of our dog food and cat food. We track it for you. And we have very competitive pricing across the board as well.
And when you get to that free bag, balloons and confetti.
Streamers come out, music starts.
The Hawkeye Marching Band comes blowing
right through the front door.
Through the front door.
What's all this?
Ron, thanks for stopping in. The Positively Petland Show every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock.
Thank you.